From the office to a first date, there's a lot of pressure to wear the right clothes for every situation. But clothes don't make the man. With Mack Weldon, you can build a wardrobe that looks polished in any setting and tells the world that you stay you wherever you go. They combine timeless style with modern performance materials to keep you looking good and feeling comfortable all day, no matter what's on today's agenda. Browse everything from shorts and polos to sweats and crews. Go to MackWeldon.com and get 25% off your first order of $125 or more with promo code MACK25. That's MackWeldon.com, promo code MACK25.
From emails to reports and project proposals, it's hard to meet the demands of today's competing priorities without some help. Grammarly is the essential AI communication assistant that boosts your productivity at work so you can get more of what you need done faster. Just a few clicks can tailor your tone and writing so you come across exactly as you intend. Get time back to focus on your high-impact work. Download Grammarly for free at grammarly.com/podcast.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
A magic beyond anything you could ever imagine.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Sagrera Farms on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day.
You really think that's the best idea?
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, this is Hunt Palmer.
It's quite a piece of work.
All right, let's rock and roll. One more hour of the Hunt Palmer Show this week. We are out tomorrow for the 4th holiday. We'll be back in action next week. Next week, just very plainly, is one of the tougher weeks to do of the year. Baseball transfer portal's really cooled off. The draft's still a week away. Media day's still a week away. You're just kind of trying to find some news here and there. But we'll get through it. Today, we got plenty to talk about. I want to talk about the 4 big freshman pitchers from LSU in the next segment. Kason Evans, Maverick Rizzi, William Schmidt, Cooper Williams, those 4 guys, kind of what I see for them next year. We'll do that coming up in 15 minutes. And then incredible piece by Ross Jackson on LouisianaSports.net about Kellen Moore's offense and how the ball gets spread and what that may mean for this iteration of the Saints team. And so we'll get into that at the bottom of the hour. But, Beck, are you going to watch the hot dog eating contest tomorrow?
I probably will. Let's see. Yeah. I'm going to my wife's family has a camp in Mississippi, so we'll go there. And there's not a whole lot to do there. It's a deer camp. So in the summer you can go fishing or just hang out. So I'll probably be watching it.
All right. Well, I have another thing for you to watch.
Okay.
LSU's Takeover of the SEC Network is tomorrow, 24 hours, starting at 11 o'clock tonight. And I wanted to kind of briefly run down memory lane on the games that they've chosen to show. They got to spread the wealth around from the different sports, and all of it is this past year. So they're not going to show you the earthquake game or Florida 97 or Brad Cressy getting the game-winning hit in the 2000 World Series. Everything's from this past year. It'll start at 11 o'clock tonight, and it'll be the football game against South Carolina. That game is going to just get lost in the annals, I think, because nothing of consequence happened for LSU this past year. And it was early in the season, and it's South Carolina. It's not Florida or Auburn or one of the Alabama storybook games. What a crazy game.
Yes.
I mean, LSU falls behind, and they can't stop Lenore Sellers, who no one had ever heard of at that point. And you got Rocket Sanders ripping off touchdown runs, and then you got Lenore Sellers ripping off touchdown runs. And then LSU's offense kind of found its gear, and Nussmeier started slinging around. And then Caden Durham, out of nowhere, he hadn't really played the first month, is just ripping off runs all over South Carolina. And they chip back, and what?
Lenore Sellers got hurt.
He did get hurt. I was coming up on that.
Okay.
LSU got back into the game, and then Sellers got hurt, and then they brought in, it was Ashford?
Yes,
Robbie Ashford. Oh, my heavens. He was awful.
Really bad.
He's turning the ball over. And then Nussmeier turns the ball over. Then you get the blocking penalty, which I didn't even think was a penalty, on Nussmeier that takes a touchdown off the board. The game was nuts. That was the first game that we had done as the pregame show. We were over at the casino, and I vividly remember watching it. It started at 11 o'clock in the morning. It was just a wild scene. And that game, again, is just going to get lost forever until we, I guess, talk about it before the South Carolina game this year.
Yeah.
But a crazy game that is worth watching if you're up at midnight tonight and want to check that out. The 2 o'clock game, really no one's ever going to remember. At 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, no one will remember this except me, because I wrote the story for LouisianaSports.net. It's the basketball game at Oklahoma this year.
Oh, I remember it.
And Jeremiah Fears is on that team, and they ended up making the tournament, and LSU was just getting beat. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Cam Carter was just like, all right, I'm just going to do like 1 minute's worth of Michael Jordan Space Jam stuff. And just hit threes and stole the ball and got 3-point plays. And he scored like 8 points in 20
Oklahoma
seconds.
completely choked down.
I mean, they just completely peed down their leg. LSU was just not good. They're on the road, and for whatever reason, I mean, at this point in the season, most LSU fans have just checked out.
Yes.
I would venture to guess that 60% of the LSU fans had just checked out on basketball completely and weren't even watching. I remember texting my group text after this happened, and Cam Carter just won the game by himself. Like, y'all weren't watching this, I'm sure, but that was one of the most unbelievable individual efforts I've ever seen from an LSU basketball player. It was three-pointer, steal, get the ball back to Cam, drive in, 3-point play. Then he got fouled again, made free throws, and they win the game. It was remarkable what he did in 25 seconds of game action. And so, again, if you're up at 2 o'clock in the morning, you can check that out on the SEC Network. Then it comes to women's basketball against Stanford, and then you've got 6 a.m. baseball against Arkansas in the College World Series. That is one that we'll remember forever. In my game story for LouisianaSports.net, I just said, then came a sequence that they'll talk about in Louisiana living rooms for decades to come. And as we've separated ourselves from the ninth inning comeback for LSU and everything that happened there, from the double play ball to the line drive to left field to Jones's ball off Kojal's glove, like the whole thing. I listen to a lot of podcasts that cover opposing teams. I find it interesting, and I think it's helpful for me to do my job to help relay information to you about other teams in the league and teams that LSU is going to play. And the narrative around that game in Arkansas was like, this program is cursed and they choked. And the narrative around LSU there, and I was up at the Ameristar and did the segment on the show, like, this is what LSU does, and this is what Arkansas does, and LSU makes big plays when they have to. And Milam's ball was just a ground ball to short. Now, Hernandez hit the ball very hard, but if LSU's left fielder made that play in that spot, I would not think at all to give the Arkansas hitter any credit. I would say that the left fielder has to catch the ball. He's in college. And we're just talking about a great comeback. And, like, the more we get separated from that game, I think about the Arkansas side of it more than the LSU side of it. And clearly, trust me, I'm not running to put an asterisk on the Intimidator in February. I'm not at all. But I do think that considering it from the other side is important. Like, Beck, would you use the word choke for Arkansas in that game?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not sure a lot of LSU fans would. But, man, that is two plays that are very hard to compartmentalize. And then I give Jared Jones a bucket full of credit for staying on that slider that he saw from Jimenez and lining it off Kojal's glove. And that's not a play that Kojal's going to make ever. Just tipped off his glove. It was a great jump to get there. I did hear an Arkansas guy say he mistimed his jump. That's not true.
No way. That would have been an absurd play.
Yes. But the play in left field and Aloy not throwing the ball to second base are just very difficult.
Those are pretty routine plays any other time than that.
And I think Davallon slipped, which is hard. And Aloy just did what he thought was safe. And when we talked to Joe Healy about it after that, like, he echoed that. And I kind of thought that at the press box. I will say, in the press box, I'm sitting there, I'm covering the game, I'm not on the radio call. And when he threw the ball to third base, it did, like, I was like, whoa. I was surprised to see it. But it didn't cost him until it cost him. And that was a tough look for Arkansas. It really was. Credit to LSU for battling and for hitting the ball hard a couple times, but that was just a tough look for Arkansas. That is at 6 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. Women's hoops against Tennessee at 9 o'clock. That was a really classic game between the Lady Vols and LSU. 11 a.m. This is when you kind of get things together. Maybe you're coming in from the pool for some lunch or something. 11 a.m., the football game against Ole Miss. And that one was incredible. That was an incredible football game. I remember watching in that game the first quarter and a half watching that game thinking Ole Miss is significantly better. Like, I thought they covered better. I thought that they looked more crisp on offense. Kiffin went for a couple of fourth downs that really cost them, and that stalled their momentum and kept LSU within striking distance. And then LSU made some real plays late in the game. The interception that Zy Alexander made was a great play, and then Nussmeier's throws down the stretch were his signature moment to this point is that Ole Miss comeback. And I think that's the point where you as an LSU fan probably looked at this and went, okay, this is really a guy we can win with. And I think that some of the things he did that night in Tiger Stadium will give you confidence going to Clemson. Like, some of the things, that was the first time you could look at it and go, okay. Because how much do you care about the bowl game against Wisconsin? And how much do you care about the USC game? That game was awesome. And that Ole Miss team was really good. And the fact that they lost to Kentucky blows my mind. But that game in Tiger Stadium was incredible. And it was one of those nights in Tiger Stadium where it is actually at its best. And I remember watching a YouTube video of this Virginia Tech couple that goes to a different stadium every year just to kind of see it. And they did like an hour and 10 minutes on their trip to Baton Rouge and Tiger Stadium. And they were just effusive in their praise of how awesome Tiger Stadium is. And for like us, like, I see Tiger Stadium when it's not at its best a lot of times a year, most of the time. But sometimes it's at its best. And when it is, like it was that night against Ole Miss, it's really, really something special. Softball against Texas is the next game. Men's basketball against Arkansas, 4 o'clock. I'll be honest, I know they won the game. I know it was in the PMAC. I know that it was pretty close late. I don't remember anything about that game. I don't know what makes that one noteworthy. I'd throw the Tennessee Jared Jones walk-off in place of men's basketball against Arkansas in the PMAC. Like, I remember Calipari coming in there with Arkansas. It was early in conference play. LSU got the win. Arkansas was winless in the league at that point. That game does not really register anything for me. SEC Gymnastics Championship, Jay Clark's team won that. That's at 6 o'clock. And then at 8 o'clock to finish it off, as you would expect, LSU's national championship win over Coastal Carolina. I'm sure that'll be game 2, which was just a great game that LSU played. They played awesome. I thought Ianson threw it great. I thought Shores was electric. And I thought the early at-bats off of Morrison to hit the low-line drives the way they did. Milam was great. Brown was great. Curiel was great. They just played a really good game of baseball. And the last thing I'll say about that game, and I've said this on the radio before, you can probably, in your mind, play the last out or the last swing of all the national championships, the fly ball to right field, Doug Thompson's last pitch, of course, Warren Morris and Brad Cressy, Lewis Coleman's last pitch, obviously, Guidry's last pitch as well. But this one is sweet because that double play was awesome looking. And Dickinson catches it, flips to Milam, and completes the double play on. You get Jared Jones involved there. You get Danny Dickinson making the play with the hamate bone story that we now know. And Milam was just so incredible in the postseason. Those guys' defense was awesome all year. It was a big hallmark of why that team was as good as it was. And to see the double play being the clincher, I think is a cool thing that'll be on all the highlight reels from now and till forever. That team it exemplified that team, I thought. So is there one of those games that I just mentioned, Beck, that stands out that you would like to take another look at?
I don't think so. I mean, I would.
For me, it's the South Carolina football game.
Yeah.
Because that's action start to finish. Like, you could sit through the men's basketball game against Oklahoma.
You just want to watch the last.
You need to watch the last 2 minutes. That's the whole thing is the last 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Football against Ole Miss was wild. I mean, I could definitely park it in front of that. And the baseball game against Arkansas, again, like the meat of that is the 8th and 9th. The Jones homer, the big swings off of Shores that played at the runs, Myers getting the strikeout, and then the craziness that happened in the bottom half. But I think the South Carolina football game is the one that if you said you got to watch one of these, I might buckle in and watch that one again. Because, again, everything from the Ole Miss game and from all the baseball things is so fresh in my mind. The South Carolina thing, I'm sure I would watch it at some point and be like, forgot that happened. But that game was absolutely nuts. So it's an SEC network takeover for LSU coming up starting at 11 o'clock tonight. If you just flip on the SEC network at any point from 11 p.m. to 11 p.m., which is, I guess, midnight in the Eastern time zone, so it makes sense. you'll see LSU doing something really cool on your TV screen. So check that out instead of the hot dog eating competition, if you must. All right, when we come back, let's talk some LSU baseball pitching. 4 stud freshman pitchers from this past year. What do I think for this year? That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show. This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Thursday show is brought to you by Sagrera Farms, premium Angus beef. Appreciate them for making our Thursday shows possible. I want to talk about LSU's freshman pitchers from this past season. And what I did for this exercise was I just went to the SEC stats. What'd you do against the Southeastern Conference? Because while I do value some of the outings in the non-conference, because look at what Cade Anderson did in the non-conference last year and then what he did in conference. You do need to take some steps. Very rarely are guys just ready to jump in and go get it in the SEC. Alex Lang showed up ready to go. He went 13-0. But Aaron Nola wasn't a weekend starter until late in his freshman season. Kevin Gausman didn't really hit his stride as a dominant pitcher until late in his freshman season. He started on the weekend. What was that team that had the rotation? It was all freshmen. It was McCune, Gausman, and Eads. But sometimes it takes some time. And you look at the statistics, Kason Evans was just ready to go. He jumped into SEC play. He made 10 appearances. He threw 31 and a third innings, and his SEC ERA was 2.3. It was the best on the team. His ERA in league games was better than Ianson or Cowan or Anderson. And that's the guy that you're going to hand the ball to at the top of the rotation next year, very likely. And so that gives you a ton of confidence because he's got 30. This is not a small sample size. 31 and a third innings is plenty of work. And though most of it was in relief, he only started 3 games and 2 of those starts didn't go very well. He's ready to go. But what about the other guys? And it's a minuscule sample size. But they've got to take some steps here. I want to talk about William Schmidt first. I've got incredibly high hopes for William Schmidt still because he's got a great frame. He's got a huge arm. His fastball velocity as a freshman was around 94 miles an hour consistently. And his breaking ball is a hammer. And you saw glimpses of that in some midweek action. The Nichols game, he was fantastic. And that's a glimpse into what could be in the future. But some of the numbers here are very jarring in the league outings, which there were 5 of them. But it's one metric that is so skewed. Beck, let me just give you a guess. He made 5 appearances. He threw 2 SEC innings. What would you say would be a big walk total for 2 SEC innings?
I would say anything more than 2.
Okay, well, he had 11.
That's a lot.
11 walks in 2 innings. And so this is not a guy who SEC hitters had solved. This is not a guy that SEC hitters were knocking all over the place. This is a guy who, for whatever reason, got on the mound in league games and could not execute pitches. And that's something that Nate Yeske and Jay Johnson and Jamie Tutko will have to evaluate with their player. Did he try too hard to hit corners? Emotionally, was he too fired up or too nervous or too anxious? Were his mechanics different? It's just something you're going to have to evaluate because that's not let's get the walks down a little bit. That's oh my gosh, 11 walks in 2 innings. He walked 11 guys and got 6 out. That's something that they've got to address because the stuff is fine. You can look at the spin rates. You can look at the shape of the pitches. You can look at the radar gun. None of that is concerning. In fact, it's very encouraging. You can't walk 11 guys in 5 appearances over 2 innings of work. And Maverick Rizzi had a little bit of the same issue because he threw 9 SEC innings and walked 9. Now, he gave up 12 hits in a .330 batting average, so there got to be some strides made there. But Maverick Rizzi very clearly looks to me to be a big bullpen piece for LSU in the future. When I think about starters for LSU next year, I think about Kason Evans, I think about Zach Cowan, I think about Cooper Williams, I think about Jaden Newt, I think about William Schmidt. These are the guys I think about as potential starters. When I think about bullpen guys, Rizzi comes to mind first because you look at when he was good, like when he came in that regional game, oh my goodness, like just throwing BBs. And that's really what you're looking for when you evaluate a freshman. Like, are they showing you flashes of what they could be? And when you see that, like you did with a couple times with Schmidt and like you did actually more times with Rizzi, then you just have to work towards that. You don't have to work towards being something you've never seen and hoping that it exists. You're not talking about like a ceiling that you're hoping to reach. You're looking at a very attainable, like this is how he is sometimes. How do we get him to be that more? And it usually just comes with mound time. A lot of times freshman pitchers don't throw in the summer. They've usually worked a pretty big workload or they've done something they've never done before. You want to give them time off, but then you come back in the fall and you ramp it back up and you come back in January and you make sure they're ready to go as the leaders of the staff as sophomores and then moving into their junior year. And Rizzi shows big-time stuff. He had 8 strikeouts in 9 SEC innings. 9 walks, too many. And then you move to Cooper Williams, whose stat line I gave you back last week when I talked about the whole team statistically speaking. I wrote a piece on it on LouisianaSports.net. But like Cooper Williams on the season pitched to an ERA that was quite tidy, 1.8. He only gave up 4 earned runs in 20 innings on the season, but I told you we were going to look at conference stats, so let's keep it locked on conference stats. Cooper Williams, just 4 1/3, 7 strikeouts, 2 walks, an ERA of 2.08. Now, Cooper Williams is interesting, and he's a little bit of a different evaluation, and I talked about this when I did a statistically speaking piece back on Monday. But he doesn't flash the stuff that Rizzi and Schmidt and Evans do. But he's left-handed, and he's got a funky arm slot, and he just didn't really get hit hard all year. And he started to miss some bats late in the season. He was really good in that regional loss to Little Rock. The offense stunk, and the rest of the bullpen crumbled. But he was good. And his tiny sample size in SEC play was good. 7 strikeouts in 4 1/3, 2.08 ERA. That'll play all day. Batting average against of 235. Only walked 2. I think Cooper Williams has a real future at LSU. And maybe it's in the starting rotation. Maybe it's as a left-handed bullpen piece. But what he'll do is slide in with these left-handers that LSU has brought in. And we talked about them earlier in the week. But LSU has brought in reliever profile left-handers in the transfer portal. 3 of them. Now, Lockenmeyer might be a starter. They really like him. But you feel like with Smart, with Garcia, you've brought in 2 guys that profile as relievers. And maybe Cooper Williams can earn a rotation spot. Maybe he's a long relief guy. What if I told you Cooper Williams takes the Zach Cowan role from this past year? We know he can stretch out. He'll get you 7 outs and close a game. That's doable. I think he profiles as a starter, and I think they want him to be a starter. And I know that Jay Johnson wants at least one left-handed starter in his rotation, if he can do it. But Williams is very, very intriguing to me because of the effectiveness that he showed without the dynamic stuff. And maybe the stuff ticks up. We've seen a lot of guys develop in a big way at LSU with the resources that they have, with the pitching lab, and they can deal with the spin rates, and they got all those numbers, and they do all the plyometrics, and they increase flexibility, increase arm strength, and here comes the velocity. And you know that Cooper Williams is going to throw strikes at the very least. It's a guy that in his outings this year, if you're looking at season long, not just SEC, he threw 20 innings and walked 13, which is a little higher than you want, but it's nowhere near what you're looking at with Rizzi and Schmidt. If you tighten that up, which he did late in the season, didn't throw a lot of balls at all late in the season, That's a guy that I think you can really count on. And really, to me, how this freshman class of pitchers progresses to next year is one of the biggest indicators of what LSU will be in 2026. Because if Evans and Schmidt are big-time weekend starters, and Williams has a key role, and Rizzi locks down the back end of the bullpen, that is the nucleus of your pitching staff. We'll see what Cowan does, if he comes back or stays. We'll see what some of these portal guys can be, what Lockenmeyer is. But really, the nuts and bolts of this LSU pitching staff today, on the 3rd of July, we're looking at, 5, 6, 7 months until we're really in action. Today, those 4 guys are as important as any 4 on the roster moving into next year. Because I don't care how good Milam is and how good Curiel is and how good Brown is, how good Aaron Beatty becomes, what Dardar and brings. If you can't pitch it, you're toast. Ask Wes Johnson. They've hit, let me check the stats, 9 billion home runs the last 2 years, hadn't made Omaha because they can't pitch. You have to pitch it. And these 4 guys are vital to what LSU is going to do moving forward. And I got confidence in them. I think it's a good 4 guys to push off the dock with. But time will certainly tell with that group. All right, let's look at LSU baseball here. Let's take a look at a great piece from Ross Jackson on the New Orleans Saints when we come back. 30 minutes to go this week on The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com is the website. Every car that's on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. How about 3 years complimentary valet maintenance? How about 10 years, 100,000-mile warranty? How about the best staff in the game? It's all part of the perks of being a Genesis driver. Stop by Airline at Pico. You'll see the facility. It's first class. Unbelievable ambiance in there, and the service matches it. Their brand ambassadors are never going to be pushy. They're not going to take advantage of you or upsell you. All the stereotypes that exist in auto dealership lots, they don't apply here. Go chat with one of their staff and get behind the wheel. The odds are that those of you who are listening to me right now have not been behind the wheel of a Genesis. It's just a newer line of vehicles. When it is time for you to get in the market for a car, I just cannot recommend enough dealing with the folks at Genesis of Baton Rouge. If you're looking for a new vehicle, you're probably going to be on Airline Highway anyway. Just make one stop over at Genesis, and you'll be glad you did. Chat with one of their brand ambassadors, get behind the wheel, and understand what it's like to be a Genesis driver. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. Find everything you need in terms of the lot. It's genesisofbatonrouge.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
It is summertime. I know those grills are firing up. Fillets, ribeyes, burgers, skirt steaks, flank steaks, chuck roasts. Get the best. Don't settle for choice or select just because you always have. Prime. Everything you get from Sagrera Farms is Prime. It's a hidden gem just north of Baton Rouge, 30 miles away. You can make a trip up to the farm, see exactly what it is that you're buying, and you can be promised incredible quality and consistency, because that's what the process at Sagrera Farms produces time and time and time again. Every single cow is on a 3-year journey. Raised on grass, finished on grain, dry age, 35, 45 days. It's a different way to procure beef. If you've always just gone down the street, grabbed a package, like, what are you buying? Do you know? Do you have any idea? I can promise you, no steroids will ever be used at Sagrera Farms. They'll never improperly use antibiotics. You're going to get dry-aged prime beef. You can fill your freezer with it, so whenever you're ready, throw some burgers on the grill. Whenever you're ready for a Sunday steak night, whenever you're ready to get that flank steak out for a great salad or some fajitas, eat the best in beef. Sagrera Farms has it. Top 1% nationwide, and it's right here in Baton Rouge. Sagrera Farms. Call my guy Sean Sagrera. I'm going to give you his number here. Get your phone out. I talked to Sean this morning. He's fired up. They've got cows on the farm, and they're ready for you to come visit. So give Sean a call. It's at a 225 number, obviously. 719-1723. 719-1723. That's Sagrera Farms. All right, great piece that I just found really fascinating from Ross Jackson over at LouisianaSports.net. And this was just diving into how Kellen Moore spreads the ball around on offense and what it may mean for the Saints. And what he found in going back to the 2020 Cowboys, 2021 Cowboys, 2022 Cowboys, 2023 Chargers, 2024 Eagles. So you're talking about 5 years, 3 stops. The consistency with which Kellen Moore gets his position groups involved is really jarring. You look at the running backs in terms of receptions. Every year, they were between 15% and 18% of the target shares. Every year. That's right on a razor's edge, 15 to 18%. There wasn't a single outlier. You look at the tight end. Every single year, between 17 and 23%. In 2021, 20%, 2023, 21%, 2024, 20%. That's 3 different teams. Cowboys in 2021, 20% of the targets tight end. Chargers in 2023, 21% of the target shares tight end. Eagles last year, 20%. 3 different teams, 3 different quarterbacks. Right there, consistently. And then every single year, wide receivers between 60 and 64%. So one thing is that every group is consistently in the same range, and the other is that it is spread. You didn't have any year where the wide receivers were targeted 80% of the time. You didn't have any year where there were just a boatload of checkdowns and the running backs got 30% of the targets. It's just a very structured, predictable, and efficient offense that has run in multiple different stops. So the question is, does the personnel at New Orleans dictate a change? Because Jalen Hurts is not the same as Justin Herbert, is not the same as Dak Prescott. And you've now got a rookie quarterback in Tyler Shook. And Alvin Kamara has been a large piece to the Saints passing game since he showed up. Every year since 2020 in New Orleans, the backs have seen at least 20% of the targets. That would be more than any stop in Kellen Moore's young career calling plays. Does that Alvin Kamara effect, as Ross termed it, skew the numbers? And I'm curious to see just how much Kellen Moore can replicate his success with veteran quarterbacks at other stops with a rookie quarterback at this stop. Because while we're certainly evaluating Tyler Shook very closely, and I've told you time and time and time again that I want to see this younger, cheaper roster emerge, and you've got to get 4 starters from this draft class, and Shook's got to hit, and you've got to move on from the contracts of Cam Jordan and Tyrann Mathieu, and you've got Ramchick out of the way, and I talk to you about the players all the time. We are evaluating Kellen Moore here because you got to make sure you got that right too. I think it's more difficult to tell in year one if you've got that right when you got a rookie quarterback under center. But if he can replicate a lot of the things from a target share, a yardage, and a points production with a rookie quarterback and this Saints offense, which I believe is a little bit limited on weapons. I don't believe your wide receiving core is elite. I don't believe your tight end group is elite. I believe your running back room is shallow and has an aging player in it. I don't think the Saints offense is elite from a player perspective. But if Kellen Moore can put similar numbers up with this group, you've got something. And I think that it's likely to me that Alvin Kamara and the running back group takes a higher share than what we saw in Dallas, Los Angeles, and in Philly, which was 15 to 18%. I think it's probably north of 20, 21, 22, 25%. Because, you're going to have a rookie quarterback. He's going to want to get the ball out of his hands. You're going to want to get the ball to Kamara, and it just makes too much sense. But what you don't want to see is the wide receiver share dip too low, because it's been remarkably consistent between 60 and 64%. And if you don't target the wide receivers, you don't have as good a chance to make big plays. And in the NFL, you have to make big plays. And if you've got a quarterback that's afraid to make big plays because he's afraid to make mistakes, and he just checks it down to the running back too much, and he just deals with the tight end too much, then you've got a guy that's got training wheels on and is not developing. So these numbers to me are very, very fascinating. And I think everyone, well, I shouldn't say everyone. I feel like most understand that the Saints this year are up against it with a first-year head coach and a first-year quarterback. And I don't think the grading curve is going to be too harsh. I think everybody understands there are going to be some Sundays that probably don't go so hot. But if, especially by November and December, things start to look a little bit better and these percentages bear themselves out with this cast of characters, the same as it did with the Cowboys when you had elite-level skill talent, let's be honest, and Philly, where you certainly had elite-level skill talent last year, and you can do some of that stuff with the New Orleans team, that's a really, really encouraging number for Kellen Moore and for the Saints as they move forward. I'm not here to tell you that Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, and Brandon Cooks look a ton like that Eagles wide receiving core we watched last year. It was just fantastic. But it's about play calling, creating space, and Olave's been a 1,000-yard guy. Cooks can make big plays. I'm not saying steer away from Kamara. Get him the ball. But you don't want it to become too much of the offense. You need the offense to push the ball down the field. So I think these numbers are great. It's incredible that Ross pulled this stuff up, and these are the kind of things that you can get over at LouisianaSports.net. And there's something that I'll certainly be monitoring as we move forward with this New Orleans team. It's kind of interesting to go into a season without just like a vice grip on your expectations, holding on for dear life. It's just kind of you go in going, well, I hope this looks good. And if it can look something like that, you can really crank up the optimism meter in New Orleans. Let's look at the Saints here on this Thursday. If you're looking for Saints content, you can certainly find it. Hunt on Saints. Hunt on Saints is where all of our Saints content lives, on YouTube as well as wherever you find your podcasts. LouisianaSports.net, great free resource as well. All right, when we come back, we'll close out this week. The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com. Storm season is here. Is your property policy ready to go? Do you even know? Trust your insurance broker. The Highland Insurance Group would love to earn your trust. Just let them look at your property policy. Let them look at your entire insurance program. They've got dozens of markets they're contracted with, and they know where to place your commercial insurance. If you're thinking, I need to call an insurance broker because I've got to save 20% on my renewal, I can't promise you that, not in this marketplace. But what I can promise you is if you call the Highland Insurance Group, you're going to get a broker who is knowledgeable, who is an expert, and who can help make sure that your insurance program is ready to respond when that problem comes. Whether that's a storm, like the season we're in right now, cyber attack, car accident, lawsuit, whatever the case may be. Make sure your limits are right. Make sure your exclusions don't leave you vulnerable. There's no loopholes. And that you're properly covered for the money that you pay annually in that premium. That's what Jonathan Carver and his team can promise you. Trust your insurance broker like your attorney, like your CPA. The Highland Insurance Group is ready to help. If you want them to audit your policy for free, go online to HighlandIG.com, fill out the contact information. They'll give you a call. Jonathan Carver and his team are great to work with. They're right here in Baton Rouge. They can help you statewide. It's the Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Shout out to Sagrera Farms, premium Angus beef. We'll have some of that on the grill this evening out at the lake. Palmer's headed out for a family weekend. Looking very much forward to it, no matter what your plans are this weekend. Hope you are safe. Enjoy some time with the friends. And we'll be out tomorrow, back in action on Monday's show. Looking forward to that. Start to look forward towards SEC Media Days, which are the following week in Atlanta, and we'll certainly keep an eye on the baseball transfer portal as things crank up. And next week, I promise you, I will dive very deeply into LSU's baseball signing class and what the prospects are for that group with the MLB draft looming in the next week. So I'll get deep into that on next week's show. So one more order of business today. That's, of course, take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it. it.
Take it or leave it.
Presented to you by Flight by Yingling, the next generation of light beer, crafted by America's oldest brewery. Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Speaking of this weekend on the lake, there will be plenty of Flight by Yingling to be had out there. If you're headed to pick up something cold to drink this weekend as we speak, might I suggest stopping in and grabbing a Flight by Yingling. You can find it wherever you pick up your beer. It is crisp, it is cold, it is refreshing, and it is light. 95 calories, 2.6 carbs, the next generation of light beer. It is Flight by Yingling. That's America's oldest brewery. Let's roll back.
Alrighty, first one here. In the spirit of that, you will have at least 8 beers this weekend. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. That's one of the safer bets. Vegas is not taking any action on that, I can promise.
The odds are going to be, there's no odds on that one.
My uncle's got this great deal that he does. He takes a cinder block and he ties all these ropes to it and then throws it to the bottom of the lake by the pier. And then all the ropes come up in there. You can clip your little raft, those little rafts that you sit in. So you don't like float off. Everybody's just tethered to the cinder block. And then we just sit there. It is a beer graveyard out there, folks.
Okay, make sure to apply some sunscreen, huh? We don't need a red Hunt Palmer on Monday.
We really don't. And you know what? Over the years, we've really gotten better at sunscreen application.
That's good.
There was always that. I was never like that bad at it. But in college, spring break, that first day, somebody on spring break goes out there at 9:45 a.m. and goes in at 5 and never put sunscreen on once.
Yes.
And then they wake up the next day and they
red.
are just baked. That happened every year. And you watch
You're an
that and
adult
you go,
now,
I never want to be that. And then when I go on vacation, I'm an adult. That's debatable.
You are by
debatable.
definition.
Debatable.
You are.
But whenever I'm on vacation or something, and I'm going to be playing golf, like you can't have your golf compromised by a sunburn. So
no.
I've got the sunscreen bottle out every 40 minutes on the beach. Like we're getting 50 on there. Like we're not messing around with the sun.
All right, next one here. This is a bit of a trivia, if you will, for take it or leave it. The Cubs have 2 starters in the All-Star game, Pete Crow Armstrong and Kyle Tucker, both outfielders. You remember the last outfield tandem to be All-Stars for the Cubs. Take it or leave it.
I remember them. I'll take it. I don't know if I can name them off the top of my head, so I'll try. Outfielders that were team. The first 2 names that popped into my head were Moises Alou and Sammy Sosa.
A little bit after that.
A little bit after that.
In terms of more recently than that.
Soriano would have been an all-star a few years. Maybe Kosuke Fukudome.
That's it. 2008.
Oh, baby,
there you go.
Soriano hit like 420 homers.
Yeah, well, his first few years of the Cubs, he was really, really good, and then the last 4 were horrible.
He struck out a lot. They used to throw him sliders away, and he would look like a clown.
He was like Javi Baez in his prime in terms of swinging at just terrible pitches.
And it was always the same pitch. It was a slider away, and it was just waved over the top.
The scouting report was out, and there was no chance. But yes, 2008, Alfonso Soriano and Kosuke Fukudome, both all-stars.
In Fukudome's first game ever, he hit a 9th-inning game-tying home run against the Brewers, and I was watching in the fraternity house. Went nuts on opening day. It was like 35 at Wrigley that day.
Yeah, he was really good those first few months, and then after that, not so much. But all right, last one here. I am breaking 90 on Saturday. Take it or leave it.
I need some details.
All right, well, so I told you where I'm playing, which it's Carter Plantation. Not the easiest course.
Breaking 90?
Yes.
I will leave it. I will challenge you.
Leave it alone.
To see if you can get it done.
Okay.
Like we challenged you with the 999 challenge, which you failed miserably.
Okay. All right. Yes.
Atrocious effort.
I had no chance.
You had like 3 hot dogs and 2
beers.
No,
that's not true. That is not true at all. I had 6 beers and 4 hot dogs.
Which is not going to get it done.
No, it's not. But
what do you think you're going to shoot? Do you feel confident?
I do actually, Hunt. I've been working on my swing a lot.
Wow.
The swing's feeling good. And I've also been listening to Bob Rotell's book, Golf is Not a Game of Perfect.
Sound like my dad.
So I'm trying to
get in the swing box, the decision box, and get it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what? You don't think that there's any credence to what this guy is like? Really popular with all the professional golfers.
I think everybody needs to chill out about their golf games and just hit the next shot like me and try to drink some more beer. That's probably what you need to do.
I'll try that.
I should be a golf sports psychologist. Here's my advice to all the amateur golfers out there, yourself included.
Okay.
Here's the deal. You're not very good, so don't expect to hit every shot really good.
Okay, I'm not, but I'm trying to have the confidence and mindset. I don't want to just step up and say, oh, I'm probably gonna shank this one. Like I'm trying to just be confident on it. All right, is that just a crime?
That's okay. Whenever I talk to my buddy when we play in this tournament once a year, I look at him and go, look, we're in a flight with 10 groups. That's a total of 8 other golfers that are playing, 16 other golfers that are playing against us. They all suck. So when you hit a bad shot, don't worry about it because they're gonna hit tons of bad shots too.
Yes.
That's what everybody that's an amateur needs to get through their brains. Why would you expect to hit a great shot?
I definitely
You're not that good.
Yeah, no. I'm trying not to be too upset with that. I usually am. I'm usually not.
Hope everybody has an awesome 4th of July. If you missed any of the show, catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. We're out of here tomorrow. Back on Monday. Talking baseball transfer portal probably. Have a great 4th. See you Monday.
The Hunt Palmer Show.